us have our revenge.
Is this what our future holds? Always running.
Together, we can destroy the Empire. The Emperor wants you dead.
Maul.
This is Rebel Force Radio's Maul, Shadow Lord, After Show.
I love this intro. I think this is the best one yet of all of our after show intros. Gets me pumped up. And I am pumped up to talk about these next two episodes of Maul Shadow Lord here on Rebel Force Radio's Maul Shadow Lord After Show. Yeah, it's the penultimate one, okay? We'll just get that out of the way. Meaning second to last of season 1. And we know we're going to get a season 2, and the rumors are that we're getting a season 3. And I think it makes sense. I can see how this could shake out nicely to sort of a 3-season pacing of storytelling, like a trilogy, if you will, like Star Wars. But, there was so much meat on the bone with these two episodes, and where it might have lacked a bit in terms of plotting in the second episode. We just got heaps of incredible backstory and talk about, inside the head of a character. I don't know that we've ever gotten quite inside the head of a character in Star Wars like we did with Maul in these episodes. So much to talk about. Really glad that you're hanging out with us. We're going to have a lot of fun over the next couple of hours. And at the top of the second hour, we're going to open up the switchboard, and you can give us a call if you're within the sound of our voices here live as we broadcast on YouTube, as opposed to delayed or pre-recorded podcasts, which you can get on the Rebel Force Radio feed. So thank you so much for joining us. As I said, full spoilers ahead, by the way. Yeah, we're going all out. This is a total, if you're new to this show, we're going to be examining every nook and cranny of these episodes and speculating and all of that. And lots of compelling stuff to talk about. I really think that this show has taken its place as second only to the Clone Wars. And when I say that, I mean second only to the best episodes of the Clone Wars, like when Clone Wars was really cooking. I mean, I think this artistically, from a storytelling standpoint, I think we're looking at something that's better than Rebels, better than The Bad Batch. And I know what is better. It's all subjective. But I think when it comes to the storytelling, the artwork, the animation style, all of it coming together, it's just, it's incredible. And it's a treat to watch each and every week. It's also a treat to be here, breaking it all down for you here on Rebel Force Radio by Rebel Force Radio. If introductions are in order, I mean myself. My name is Jason. And with me, as always, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. Back for more Maul. Hey, Maul Rats. Don't forget that I remember you, Maul Rats, and I will give you a shout out, and you know who you are. Jason got to say penultimate first. I wanted to say penultimate first, but whatever. I have it right there at the top of my notes. Penultimate, penultimate. Jason also mentioned the fact we're going to be poking around in every nook and cranny in this episode. And there's a lot of nooks and crannies. Much like an English muffin, we will be poking around in all the nooks and crannies. I got a follow-up, though, to something from last week.
You do?
Yeah, I was commenting. How does Maul suddenly appear on board the train? It seems like it's a trope, when villains have this boogeyman-like ability to simply appear at any time without any notice, without any sort of effort on their part. If the action is going down, the boogeyman will suddenly appear. And I was claiming that Maul Shadow Lord is guilty of that because without any sort of setup or anything, Maul suddenly appears on that train and starts doing battle with Marok. And I just thought it was far too convenient. How could he have possibly known that they were on that particular train? And how did he get there? Well, a few people reached out to tell me that they had actual rational logic behind that move. And just by merely observing something we failed to observe, Swank. And it happens according to, according to our listener, Chris Trombley from Dallas, Texas. Chris says, at the 1839 mark of episode 6, as Devin and the Inquisitor are fighting, the train is passing through a train station and passes by the station platform. The camera angle is at track level and the train is passing by. But if you watch in between the cars of the train as they pass by, you'll see a figure standing on the platform. And if you pause it at the 1839 mark, you will see a cloaked figure, which I believe is a cloaked Maul waiting for the train to pass so he could jump on it. Please take a look and let me know if you agree. Well, I did just prior to the show starting. I queued up the episode on Disney Plus and went to 1839, and I did notice a figure standing on the platform. So, Jason, I sent you the screen grab, and there it is on the screen. It's clearly Darth Maul. And you could tell because you can identify the horns on top of his head. You can make out very faintly the red and black tattooing on his shoulders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's either Darth Maul or a really good cosplay.
You can see the little buttons on his belt that I believe are some sort of controls for those cybernetic legs. I'm not sure. But there's Darth Maul. Yeah.
There he is.
And waiting for his stop. And he jumps right on, He doesn't have his CTA card or anything. No tokens needed if you are a Dark Lord of the Sith. You could just jump on. And that's right. I still call Maul the Dark Lord of the Sith because I figure I go by the Yoda rationale. Once you follow the dark side, the dark path forever, will it control your destiny? And I think that the top of the ladder there is learning to become a Sith. So once you become a Sith, I don't think you can undo the Sith part of yourself. I don't think
Vader
Anakin
did.
I don't think so. Why? Because he killed the Emperor? What? That does not erase 2 decades of oppression, murder, and mayhem. It does not.
Well, sure. I mean, there's the criminality of the thing, but in terms of you actually being a Sith versus not a Sith, that's saying, that there's no redemption for someone's soul. I think it goes beyond the actual criminal charges.
All right.
I mean,
I didn't know you were talking about people's souls.
I think that's what's at the stake when we talk about the Sith. But you know what? I'm glad that you brought it up because we are going to be talking about Darth Maul's soul. We're going to be talking about Darth Maul's fear and what he's actually out to take vengeance on in these episodes. So there's going to be a lot of that talk of redemption or potential redemption and really what redemption is on these episodes. So let's break it down with the tail of the tape. We're talking about chapters 7 and chapters 8, both premiering on April 27th, 2026 on Disney Plus. For those of you listening into the future, chapter 7 comes in about 22 minutes, which is the shorter side of the episodes that we're seeing, directed by Nate Villanueva and written by Julia Cooperman. Whereas chapter 8, The Creeping Fear... Oh, by the way, chapter 7 was called Call to Oblivion. And then chapter 8, The Creeping Fear, a little longer, about 25 minutes, directed by Saul Ruiz and written by Jennifer Corbett. So there you go. There's your tail of the tape for these 2 episodes. And really, for me, Jim, these are by far the strongest of the season so far, which is funny because last week I was thinking that those were the best of the season. And so if they keep going this way, then we ought to be really in store for something great next week. But specifically for getting Maul into the emotional core of this story and not just the looming boogeyman, like you were saying. I think this really establishes, chapter 8 in particular, establishes this show in a big way as Maul's series. So looking at this big picture, as someone who's been following the Darth Maul path for how many years now since Phantom Menace, but really over the last 20 some years with his emergence in the Clone Wars and all of that. Did these episodes change your view of Darth Maul at all?
Ooh, did it change my view of Maul? Wow, that's a strong question to ask right at the beginning of the show. But I'll try to rise up to the challenge. I don't really think so. I don't think it's changed my view of Maul, but it's given me as a viewer watching the antagonist slowly become the protagonist, because they do really put all the cards on the table here. And you realize Maul is not after riches like he was before, or even power. It is purely vengeance that is fueling him right now. And that's the only thing that's giving him the resolve to push forward. It's not power. It's not money. It's not domination or anything like that. It's not authority. It's vengeance, plain and simple. And we knew this going into the season even. But the question is, has it become something that we can use as audience members to fully get behind Maul on this and watch as the antagonist becomes the protagonist? We know Maul's a bad guy, and it's hard to sympathize with him. But I think those visions and him talking to himself, and you see that resolve building in him, you really start to become invested in his success. You really want to see him take down the Empire. But it's a tough situation also for us as audience members too, because we know he will not succeed in doing that. We know he's going to be walking into failure, depending on how they frame it. But we know the Emperor survives. We know Darth Vader survives. Crap, we even know Merrick and the Crow survive.
Right.
Because we know the Crow is killed by Ahsoka in Tales of the Jedi, and we know Merrick is still around during Ahsoka, which happens significantly later in the timeline from this story. And as long as we're talking about Merrick, I just wanted to talk about him for a second, because there were people who kept saying to me, well, Merrick, the Inquisitor, and Merrick, the Wolf, have to be two different entities altogether because they spell their names differently. The Wolf spells it with one R, and the Inquisitor spells it with two. And I've had enough people say this to me where I start second guessing myself. And I look it up, and every time I look it up, both characters spell the name Merrick with two R's. And as I was hitting the Google machine,
don't you think these people that email you about this would check first?
I know. I think they know what they're doing, and they just want to waste my time.
And waste time they have.
I'm being trolled here, Swank.
Yeah,
I'm being trolled.
yeah.
Can't you see it? But so this time when I Googled it, though, I started going down this Merrick rabbit hole, and I discovered something pretty interesting. And I don't think we've talked about this on the show at all, but I discovered there is a character named Marrok, M-A-R-R-O-C-O-K. I'm sorry, M-A-R-R-O-K. Maybe it's C-K. I'm not sure. But Marrok in Arthurian legend, Knights of the Round Table. One of the knights, kind of a lesser known knight, was named Marrok. Marrok, this Knight of the Round Table, was employed by a witch named Morgan. Ring any bells? Morgan Elsbeth?
Yes. Okay. All right.
And Marrok's wife, she must have been some sort of magician or something, but she was able to cast a spell on Marrok, which turned him into a werewolf. Now, it's starting to all add up, isn't it?
It sure is.
I believe we're in a situation here where the character of Marok, the Inquisitor, and Marok, Embo's trusty wolf companion, are one and the same. This would explain a few things. This would explain how Marok was still a viable warrior several decades into the future by the time of the Ahsoka series. And it may also explain why Marok was filled with green smoke. It has to be more than a coincidence.
It has to be. Of course, the green smoke is symbolic of the Sith witch power, Mother Talzin, the Night Sisters, all of that. And there's a moment in episode 8, chapter 8, when Maul is having his visions, his hallucinations, his force streaming, whatever you want to call it. And we see that green smoke sort of leaving the body of Savage Opress and sort of coming over Maul. And since we're talking about that, Jim, let's just jump there because I don't remember that actually happening as part of the Clone Wars. Now, unlike the people that are accusing you of misspelling Marok, I did not go back and actually review it. But it seemed like this vision in particular might have been adding something to the story a little bit, that perhaps somehow the spirit of Savage Opress has joined with his brother. So I don't know. Do you recall that green Sith witch energy coming from the body of? And in fact, I don't remember, for that matter, Savage Opress. I remember him being killed, but I don't remember there being any kind of transference or anything even remotely like this actually in the episode.
Yes, there definitely was a bunch of that green smoke that came from Savage after Palpatine killed him and he was laying there. This was on Mandalore. And reports came to Coruscant that Darth Maul had taken over the planet with his brother. And so Palpatine said, well, enough is enough. He hopped into a shuttle, went to Mandalore, and dueled with Savage and Darth Maul. And he had 2 sabers too, Palpatine. And he was easily able to defeat Savage Opress. And he defeated Darth Maul at the same time. And while Maul was mourning the loss of his brother, Palpatine lit into him with the Sith lightning. But yes, when Savage died, the green smoke definitely came from him. Also in Star Wars Rebels, when Maul had, he sought out Ezra Bridger, and they were looking for these secrets, the answers to the questions that they were desiring the answers for. And he used the green smoke magic to like open up their minds and give them like some sort of mind meld situation where
right, so they could become sort of one and
kind of like
combine
that. It's an interesting episode.
Their consciousness. Shaz Bazaar is reminding me, this part I do remember. I think I just don't remember the green smoke. I do remember his body turning to sort of like the pre-monster version, as Shaz is talking about, before he got all juiced up and he looked like more of a regular Zabrak prior to that. But it was like he got all roided up when he became Savage Opress. Okay. All right. Well, then that's good. That kind of answers it. So with all of this attention, I think on that 8th chapter and that recap, for some it's a recap, like for us, but for some people, this is the first time they're actually seeing this part of the Darth Maul story play out in these visions. Do you think that was narratively necessary? Or do you think it was a little more of that force feeding of the Filoni lore and maybe a little bit indulgent?
Which part specifically?
Maul's visions. That whole sort of recap of everything that happened to him. Yeah.
Well, I was relieved they did that because I had a coworker on the day job start asking me questions about Maul. And so I laid it all out to her, exactly what had been happening to Darth Maul since the end of The Phantom Menace. And I was amazed at the brevity in which I was able to deliver this information, where I told her that he survived. His brother found him still alive in a garbage pit, and he had created legs out of the garbage there by using the Force, and he created a spider body for himself, and he was mad and insane. And so Savage took him to the planet Dathomir, where they were able to repair him. And then he and his brother were flying through space, seeking revenge, specifically on the Jedi and Obi-Wan Kenobi. He got taken in by the Mandalorians, and then he overthrew them and took over their planet. Palpatine got wind of this, went to Mandalore, battled with Savage. Well, I just called him his brother. Battled with his brother and Maul, killed Maul's brother, and captured Maul and imprisoned him. Maul was then liberated by the Mandalorians, and he tried to reestablish his role as a gang lord in the galaxy, a gangster. And then he eventually gets defeated by Ahsoka Tano and arrested by the Republic. And then Ahsoka lets him out of the prison cell he's in because Order 66 happened, and Ahsoka needed a distraction from the clone troopers who all wanted to kill her. So she let Maul loose. Maul destroyed the reactor core in the Star Destroyer they were on board and forced it to crash. As it was crashing and Ahsoka was battling with the clone troopers, Maul stole a shuttle and escaped. And we don't know what he's been up to until the beginning of Shadow Lord. And that's when this story kicks off. So he somehow ends up on the planet Janix. And this is what I explained to her. So, and I probably did it a lot quicker than I did right there. That took me a couple minutes. Seemed like I was able to get her caught up in 90 seconds, but whatever. So I was happy to see they had this flashback for people who might still be wondering, how did Maul survive? How did Maul come back? You kind of get the flavor for how his return went down by looking at those flashbacks. Which, by the way, I got to say, the way they created that was really cool. Joel Aaron took footage and shot it through a smoke screen, and he shot that footage. So he projected the footage through a smoke screen, then shot that footage to create the effect you see. It's not it's a practical effect you're seeing in animation, which is crazy. But so that's what got people caught up, I think, were those visions. Plus, it also gave us the opportunity to see glimpses of moments we've never seen before, like Sidious training a young Maul. And it contradicts expanded universe canon because it appears that Maul is maybe a young teen or
I was thinking
preteen.
10, 11 years old, something like that.
All right, like a preteen.
Yeah.
And when he's leaving, and Savage, who appears to be the older brother, is talking to him, saying, "No, don't go, brother." And he goes off with Palpatine. In the story of Darth Plagueis, it's recounted that Mother Talzin presents Palpatine with an infant Darth Maul as a gift, a sort of take this and leave us alone kind of gift. And that's how Maul then started to become trained as a Sith by Palpatine. But in this case, it almost seems like Maul was recruited and goes willingly with Palpatine. And his brother is saying, don't go.
Yeah.
Which is odd.
Yeah, he's pleading with him, and he even calls Palpatine a monster. He says, don't go. And young Maul says, I must, my brother. And he says, "Stop there. What have you done to my brother? Answer me, you monster." I like this better than the baby story, because the baby story, he's got an infant. Come on. I mean, what are we supposed to believe, that Palpatine is raising some infant as he's climbing the rungs of politics? Like, what is he? He's got a nanny. I mean, come on. This idea where he gets a 10, 11-year-old, that makes a heck of a lot more sense.
Jason, for crying out loud, we've seen previously
I know.
Palpatine was manning an entire nursery of Force-sensitive infants.
I know.
He had his own romper room going on.
I see Sarah. I see Billy. I see Angie. I see Devin. Let me look closer. Devin, she's got potential.
All right.
When I saw this, by the way, the actual training, I thought, wow, well, this would be a really cool Tales of. I would love to see this. More of this. By the way, I don't know. Did he get a voice credit? Because that was definitely Sam Witwer doing the Palpatine stuff.
Yes, that was Sam. No question about it. I could recognize Sam's Palpatine just like that. I've recorded Sam doing that voice. And that was definitely him. That was.
Was it in the credits?
He didn't get a credit, did he? He got a credit as a stormtrooper.
Yeah, I meant to go back and look at that. So if someone on the chat can confirm, I don't know if Sam Witwer.
I don't think he did. He
credit
got
as
a credit,
Palpatine,
if I remember correctly, because I did look at the credits, which they shrink down in size right when they show the cast. It's the worst timing. The worst timing. As soon as they show that credit list, it shrinks down and asks you if you want to watch The Acolyte. F you, Disney Plus. I'm trying to look at the credits.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, I got the fat fingers. The next thing you know, I'm watching the first episode of The Acolyte.
What kills me about this is that we all know that there are union rules and regulations that stipulate who gets what type of credit and when and how long it's on the screen and all of that. I don't know how these streamers get away with making it so easy to bypass the credits.
I like when they shrink the screen really small, like down to a postage stamp, and then they fly the credits past you. Yeah, forget
all right,
about
Shaz
it.
says hit the back button and you can get it full screen again. I don't have a back button on my TV. I'm not watching on a browser.
What's a back button? Shaz got back.
Shaz got back.
But I'll tell you.
All right.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Sam got credits for, and I'm not looking this up. This is just off the top of my head, if I remember correctly. He got credits for Stormtrooper number 1, Young Darth Maul or Young Maul, and Young Savage Opress. Young Savage. Now, older Savage.
No kidding.
Was credited to Clancy Brown, of course. And they picked the greatest moment of Clone Wars history to show us in that flashback. And I know every one of you guys watching who listens to RFR, you guys were thinking about me in that moment. I know
sure
for
was.
a fact I got into all your heads. So when he said, "Is that you, brother?" Brother. You were all thinking about me. All of you. Even Shaz with his back button. He's thinking about me. Got in all your heads. Brother.
I was definitely thinking, I was like, oh my God. It was I like to think maybe that was just for us, Jim, that brother. But you go back and watch that episode. It happens more than once. And when we did that round table, we were laughing our butts off. Talking about brother, the whole time. He's looking for him. All right, well, let's back up here, or actually let's kind of get in the weeds, I should say, of the spine of this particular episode. And Jim, things are not good on Janix at the top of this episode. We've got overnight curfews. We've got public transportation has been halted. All non-military remain indoors under penalty of arrest. That sounds like COVID to me. But these people are completely locked down as the Empire establishes, and this was kind of funny, interim Imperial lockdown. And of course, we all know, because we're Star Wars fans and we've been watching this stuff unfold on various systems, there's no such thing as interim Imperial control, right?
Yeah. That's what all great dictators want you to think. Things will go back to normal.
Right.
At some point. Oh, no, this is temporary. Don't worry about it. This is just, things will go back to normal. Don't worry about it once this is all taken care of. And you'll be in a better place, too. I know it's hard to sacrifice now, but
You'll thank
shut
me.
up.
Right. Yeah, so Janek's definitely, I mean, he's getting so bad, Jim, that even a tried, true droid like Two Boots is seeing through all of this. And Two Boots definitely has an awakening, and I love it. I love seeing the face turn for Two Boots. That's a wrestling term for those of you. But let's talk a little bit about Devin and Riley and Maul at the beginning of this episode as they're travailing through the Undercity. What's interesting to me about this whole exchange with Devin, Maul, and Riley. So Riley's kind of freaked out about Maul. And it was in episode 6, I believe it was, where 5 or 6, definitely last week's shows, when Devin was trying to convince Master Daki that maybe they should form an alliance. Maybe they could work with Maul to take on the Empire. But when Riley enters the picture, Devin is like, don't trust him. Don't trust a word he says. And the whole time, it's kind of an amusing thing because there's this shot of Maul, and Maul looks like the disgusted like dad that's got like the daughter and her boyfriend trailing. He's like, I can hear you back. They're plotting their escape, and they're like 5 feet away from him. And he says, it would be wise to follow me. And then, essentially paraphrasing here, then you can make your choice. I have a ship. And so Riley is like, are you considering his offer? And Devin's like, no, of course not. But it's getting harder and harder. But do you think these are just Devin's protective instincts kicking in? Or is she, in that moment, is she really calling Maul a liar and somebody that can't be trusted? Because again, not that long ago, she was trying to tell her Jedi Master that maybe there's a future to this alliance.
You're definitely right. She doesn't seem to be an eager student of Maul's at all. And I think she's been resistant to that the whole way through. Of course, Master Daki has noticed the Maul influence a little bit on Devin, but that doesn't mean that she's necessarily fully aware of the fact that she's flirting with the dark side.
Mm-hmm.
Or even the idea of an alliance with Maul might sound like a good idea, but Daki knows that would make Devin very vulnerable to the dark side of the Force, and maybe even he himself, Daki. And that's something you don't want to be around. Yeah. And, something that doesn't really get addressed in this show, and I wish it would, is how the Jedi were kind of losing their grip on the connection to the Force. This was something that was stated a few times in the prequel trilogy. How it clouds everything, and we've lost our ability to fully connect with the Force, or whatever Mace Windu says.
The shroud of the dark side has fallen.
The shroud.
Yeah.
But nobody seems to be too terribly shrouded when it comes to tapping into Force abilities, like as far as action sequences go and Force pushing and all of that stuff. But I think it's what the Force does. Maybe it doesn't affect your ability to do the physical things you can do with the Force. It affects your mental ability to connect with the Force. That's where the real like shrouded by the dark side stuff occurs.
And the shroud was brought down, and a shroud implies that it's not completely opaque, that there's a level of transparency. So it doesn't block it fully. But the shroud was brought down by Palpatine, and I feel like his biggest priority with the shroud of the dark side was to keep his identity protected. Like I feel like that was the central thing that the other Jedi couldn't see until he reveals himself to Anakin, and then Anakin goes and tells Mace Windu. And then, of course, Mace Windu just is like, all right, well, let's go find out. He doesn't seem shocked at all. Yeah, that's another reason why he's not my favorite character. I'll say that. And I know there's a lot of Mace Windu fans, but
I think there's a lot of Samuel L. Jackson fans.
No, that's true. I love Samuel L. Jackson. Yeah, I love him.
Of course. But yes, his character is kind of bland and by the book. But
dry as toast. Really.
I do think Mace was also sensing things in the Force about the rise of the dark side and how dangerously close it was to them, but he just couldn't quite put his finger on it. And it wasn't until Anakin came in and broke the news to him that he knew immediate action needed to be taken. Like he was preparing himself for that moment for it to be revealed. And he said, the second I find out, I'm after this, I'm on this. And so that's what happened, I think. But yeah, Mace is kind of a bland character, and
I'm gonna draw a metaphor here, and I don't mean this to make this sound anything romantic at all. I'm not. That's not entering my head. But this is the metaphor that's coming to me. And Jim, I think you had said flirting with the dark side, and this is a game of seduction. Nothing sexual, nothing romantic, but it's a game of seduction, and there's a bit of a dance here. And I think you're absolutely right when you characterized what Devin is doing. She is flirting with the dark side, but if you take it out of that context and put it into a romantic context, and it's like, okay, well, the girl might be playing a little hard to get. 1 minute you're the biggest cad she's ever seen, and the next minute, she wants to be with you. So it's a little cat and mouse. So not so much. And it was Shaz Bazaar was in the chat again. He's going to be MVP this week. I think he was saying that it was not so much flip flopping, but more that she's kind of weighing things out. So it's playing out in real time. And what's so fantastic about this show, and I said it last week, is that stuff pays off. And I'll give you an example. In this same sequence, in this same scene, she asks him about his master. Is your master still alive? He says, yes. And he also says that his betrayal was not the worst thing that he did. It was devastating, but not the deepest the deepest wound he would inflict on me. And what's so fantastic is this pays off in the very next episode. We see in the very next episode what the deepest cut was. And again, I can't say that enough how important that is for these things to pay off.
Right. Narratively, the dominoes are all falling in the right direction. And there's a lot to be said about the cleanliness of the narrative, too. There's no mystery boxes. There's no sudden left turns for the characters where they level up right in front of your very eyes and you don't understand how. What they earn everything they go through.
Totally.
Because Riley finds himself in moments of peril and in fight sequences and stuff. He doesn't suddenly become this expert warrior because his dad is the cop. He is very much out of his element.
Oh, he's hiding behind boxes. And
So you understand that. Too many times we see these characters get powered up. And what's the deal? Now, one thing I will predict for Riley is sooner or later, his lacrosse expertise will come into play, and he will throw something with a stick or whack someone with a stick. Something like that will happen.
Because we know because this show does leave these breadcrumbs, and it does pay off. And we know that he's not just a player, but he's a good player. You just scored that goal.
That's right.
Everybody's going
Yeah.
crazy, and Dad wasn't there to see it, of course.
Yeah, that'll come into play where he'll have some sort of thing he'll use as a weapon that resembles the lacrosse stick he uses for Bodekin or whatever they call that game he plays. But to us, it's lacrosse. To some, it might be highlight, but it just depends, I guess, where you're from regionally. But I think lacrosse is the most common thing we can draw parallels to, and I think Riley will show off some of those athletic skills of his at some point. But that will have been totally natural and earned and established, like you said, that he was a pretty damn good player. So that'll come into play.
Really good information in this episode by way of the dialogue. Jim, we see the arrival of the 11th brother. By the way, I should mention to this at the outset that these episodes don't provide any resolution on the cloaked hologram figure from the end of episode 6. But I have a confession to make. I went on StarWars.com and I saw that they had added Palpatine as a character to the roster before I watched the episodes. And I was all ready to say, well, that proves it. Because all the characters in the databank for Maul have had screen time that they've been putting on the in the databank. And I thought, well, there you go. That's their backward way of admitting it on the website, you know. But obviously he's on there because we actually see him in these episodes, in those flashbacks. I thought we were so close to figuring it out, but no. And had people say, well, it's clearly the 11th brother, the Crow. And I just go back to what you said. I think you were the one that mentioned last week. No, he would not call him my lord.
Yes.
And so he's showing deference. Merrick is showing deference. And
yeah, he's
the
kneeling.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be Palpatine. It's got to be. Yeah. It's got to be. And Palpatine then dispatched the 11th brother.
Well, who do we got? Who do we got sitting around here? Oh, we're all the way down to 11? Oh, man. All right, send a Crow.
It's like when James Bond says, if I don't report back, 008 will replace me. But
there's always the hierarchy. Right.
But so there is a little clue that we get from Maul. He's giving Devin some compliments, and he says an Inquisitor is a formidable opponent. So in some of that missing time that we have, was you laid out the story of Maul, he must have faced an Inquisitor before.
He must have.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that Inquisitor never reported back that Darth Maul was around. I'm sure. Yeah. So that might have been like the 18th sister or something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Maul's probably like, how many of these Inquisitors do they have? I don't think it's ever been established. I'd like to say it's a dozen, maybe a baker's dozen if you include the Grand Inquisitor.
I don't think they want to tell us because I think they want to be able to go to that well. It's like a tissue box and just keep pulling them out of there. You know, they are so disposable in ways, though. This guy is he is intimidating. And I hats off to this show for, I think, putting the fear and the terror back in for these Inquisitors, I think, as they were always intended to be. These are scary dudes. And one thing I noticed is that the Crow of the 11th brother, he does not talk. He has no dialogue. Yet he's the one that interrogates Riley. And I'm like, I'm sure that was a short conversation, unless the interrogation was done by way of the Force.
Oh, yeah, the mind thing. But it's funny that you say he has no dialogue, but I actually have a few script pages here from episode 9, and right here it says he does have dialogue. It says
he does.
It says caw 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 caw.
All right. Somehow I missed that. It's not on my. It's not on mine. But Jimmy Mack, he's got all kinds of tricks, and he can go into the RFR Sound Lab. He can isolate things.
That's right. Yeah, that's
Us
right.
mere mortals can't do that. So he does he does have dialogue, but it would make sense to me that interrogation might have been, through mind control.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how a Sith interrogates. Ask questions. Either you have a ball with a hypodermic needle that does all the work for you, or you just kind of mind meld with them like Mr. Spock and figure out what's going on in there. Well, we saw Kylo Ren do it.
Right.
Get out of my head.
Something else that's revealed, just like now we know that Maul has had a run-in with the Inquisitors before, Lawson has also worked with Jedi before. And not only that, but he tells Daki that he never bought into that whole line about them being traitors. Yeah. And it kind of made me wonder, this is all speculative, of course, but it just made me wonder how common that belief might be out there. I mean, Palpatine certainly did a good job poisoning the minds of as many in the galaxy as he possibly could about the Jedi. But Lawson's a pretty common dude. I mean, he's a bounty hunter. So whoever that Jedi was that he worked with, I'd love to know. There might be a fun little backstory there. But he's not buying it.
Right. It just doesn't add up. He's had experience with the Jedi in the past and just doesn't see how that could be possible. But I bet a lot of people in galaxy-wide bought it.
Sure.
I bet they bought it because everyone was just so relieved that this war had come to an end. That if the Jedi were responsible, then get rid of the Jedi. I'm just happy the war's over. You can imagine people would be saying.
Well, another thing that they did, and for all its shortcomings, the Kenobi series illustrates this very, very well. Even if the regular folks, even if they didn't really buy into the Jedi are evil and they're traitors, they knew if they had one in their midst, these GD Inquisitors were going to show up and they were going to make life hell for everybody. So, again, even if you didn't think that they were evil, you certainly didn't want them around because it was going to attract a lot of attention, like the Empire, like the Inquisitors. So that is also a strategy. You make them almost like they're toxic.
Yeah. You mess around with the Jedi, the heat will be coming down on you, pal. Whether you believe the propaganda about them turning evil or not.
Yeah.
A lot of people are also afraid of things that they don't understand. And it's clear that the galaxy was always sort of left in the dark about the Jedi a little bit and their connection to the government and all the bureaucracy within the Jedi as an organization and things like that really, I think, alienated them from the general public in a way.
Sure.
Where people just didn't understand who they were, what they were all about, and thought that maybe they were a little sketchy to begin with. So they were primed. I mean, I
know how I am when I'm in New York and those guys in those robes, those monks try to give me a pamphlet. You know, those guys?
They
creep me out a little bit.
But do they ever like put their
sandals
lives on the line to help someone or rescue someone or defeat something evil? Do they ever do that?
Not that I've seen.
No, they only do they only do the recruiting part. At least the Jedi have some sort of foundation as far as being people who could solve a problem, to put it mildly.
Right. Well, and the opening crawl of episode 3 is that Anakin and Obi-Wan were like folk heroes across the galaxy. So their PR machine was running full tilt during that period of time. So,
that's true.
But I mean, we live in, I do not want to talk about necessarily current events, but one thing that has, here's all I'm going to say is that people have short-term memories in our own galaxy, right? We have short-term memories. And so I remember when the prequels were coming out, it was something that I really questioned about well, it's only been 20 years or it's only been 25 years or whatever. And I see how quickly the tides of public opinion and how short term and what short term memories people have in our own world. And 25 years is a long frickin' time when it comes to certain things. So it's becoming for me a little bit more realistic that you could pretty much wipe out a culture, a religious culture like the Jedi in about 25 years.
Sure. And then suppress all information about them.
That's right.
Destroy any sort of historical perspective on who they were and what they were all about, and just frame them as these spiritual freaks who turned on the galaxy.
Extremists
They would probably
be
who had
called.
to be dealt with.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, and then the public perception shifts. And of course, also the other thing that makes society have short memories is that there's a constant revolving door of perception going on as younger people get older and find themselves in positions where they have clout and they have their own soapboxes to speak from, I guess. And so, public perception shifts with the generation so quickly that it's hard to keep up with. And so, you could see how that would happen.
Yeah. And these shows, I think, do a great job of illustrating that. Something else that's going on in these episodes is that there's massive fracturing going on within Maul's ranks. The Shadow Syndicate is sort of losing its cohesion. Everything from, and this guy, Kebra, seems to be the leader, and he's influencing 2 other Mandos, but everything from Rook telling them during the evacuation to leave their loot, to Kebra talking about how their reserves are lost. He says, this situation is untenable, which I thought was an interesting word choice. I mean, it works, but I had to go look it up. It's untenable. And Rook, she tells Maul, she's like, hey, I'm loyal to you. When you took the throne of Mandalore, I'm loyal to you. I've been sticking with you. But there's a cost for their loyalty. And, of course, we see Kebra ends up gritting these 2 other guys and they desert Maul. But are we seeing through this, are they sort of representative of the collapse of the Shadow Collective as we know it, and it's about to, like a phoenix, rise up into something brand new, this lifeline that's coming in at the end of the Crimson Dawn?
I think it's a shift in priorities for Maul. And he can't provide these guys with what they want, which is just money. They're mercenaries. These Mandalorian commandos, they're just mercenaries. And they don't see any profitability from the current situation because Maul has shifted from being a criminal gangster to being hell-bent on revenge.
The plan.
And they're not on the plan. They're not on board for that.
No.
And Maul is probably feeding them a line like, oh, brothers, you'll have uncountable riches once we succeed in the plan. But these guys, they aren't seeing it. And what money they are making, they're told to leave it behind.
Yes.
What are you, crazy? So naturally, as soon as they get the first opportunity to ditch this unattainable situation or untenable situation, they get the hell out of there. But Vario has the idea. First, he makes a break for the ship. The other Mando commandos beat him to it. Poor Vario can't make it up the ramp. The ship takes off without him, but lucky for Vario. This Vario has a horseshoe up his ass because as soon as the Mando ship takes off, imp gum chips appear and they launch heat-seeking missiles at it. Kebra and the Mandos get blown to bits.
This is the last thing that they see right here.
They take off and they show Kebra and he's got this big you-know-what eating grin on his face.
Yeah, he calls up the Lady Cast. We'll see you, Lady Cast.
Yeah, he's like, adios, senorita. And then out they go. And they're off the ground for about 3 seconds before they get delivered a shipment of
Boom.
heat-seeking missiles.
Boom.
So that's 3 of them. That's 3
yeah.
of them that go.
Yeah.
There are Mandos still remaining with the main group. I think they had 7 to begin with, or they're down to 7. I found myself counting them on screen at one point, but I didn't make a record of that.
And they're commando Mandos, right? Or there's a certain type. It's why their armor is all the same.
Yeah, they get referred to as commandos and mercenaries, but
yeah,
Mandalorian commandos, and all with the most drab Mandalorian armor you've ever seen. It's like, it's like right off the shelf. No customization, no Beskar, no, nothing cool. Just off the shelf Mandalorian gear, generic and lame.
So we got Riley being captured there. So in the midst of this fight, and there's a right in the midst of Devin saying, "We're out of here, Maul. You said that we'd have a choice. We're not taking it. We're out of here." Boom! Here come the Inquisitors. Here come the imps. And there's this really a look of kind of satisfaction or surprise. I don't know what it is on Maul's face when he looks and all of a sudden he realizes that the girl that was just about to, totally leave is fighting right next to him. And so even in, these moments of battle, even defeat, there she is, she just can't quit him. And she leaves Riley, and Riley gets captured. And that's a prediction that we made, was that Riley would end up getting captured. Now, something, Jim, that is not paid off with respect to Riley's capture is the mom. I thought for sure that the mom was going to somehow intervene with Riley's capture, but it's not. It was actually Two Boots, and I do love that Two Boots was recognized and was touched that he was recognized, despite no longer having the boots.
How did you recognize him?
Right.
It was like as difficult as recognizing 3PO with the red arm in The Force Awakens. How do you recognize him? This is impossible. He's not wearing the boots.
Recognize me. Oh, God. But we got to see another thing that was taken away from Two Boots is Blake takes the coffee away from Two Boots as he's admonishing him. He doesn't say, "What's a droid doing with coffee?" So it's subtle, but he does take the coffee away because we know Two Boots doesn't drink coffee. He walks around with the coffee mug so he can relate to Lawson. It's sort of their bonding moment. So you can see that Blake is systematically taking away anything of any individuality of Two Boots. As far as Blake is concerned, he's just a toaster. So it happens at the right moment.
That's what Imperials do. And also, though, you gotta give Blake a break, because what's a droid doing walking around with a coffee mug? Blake probably thought he was bringing it to him.
Oh, right.
Thank you.
Right. I was waiting for this.
Oh, delicious. Thank you, droid. So, I mean, that's the only thing I could think of. I don't think he was maliciously taking Two Boots coffee. I think he was
don't? Okay. All right. Well, I mean,
thanks for the coffee, droid.
Am I the only one that thought that was like a moment for Two Boots? Like,
maybe it was. Maybe Blake said to himself, next time I see that stupid droid with a coffee mug, I'm snatching it right out of his hands. I don't care. Man. This is ridiculous. This is making me look like an idiot. Then, what if Darth Vader shows up and he sees droids walking around with coffee mugs at the police headquarters? He's going to choke me to death just because it's a bad visual. Just doesn't look good.
All right. Well, give us a call. Tell us what you think about the coffee mug in this episode. We're going to open up the phone lines. Tyler Page, our official call screener and program observer, is here once again. And he's ready to screen your calls and to see what you have to say. So could be about any topics on this week's show or, the whole season. It doesn't matter. If you want to talk Maul, give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. 708-866-1737. 708-866-1737. Thank you, Tyler. And we'll get to those calls in just a moment. So, Maul. We got a lot of Maul to talk about here because he really has a bad day with this. Everything that goes down with these Inquisitors. I mean, he's a tough SOB, but he's fighting too, practically with one leg tied behind his back because that mechanical leg, that right leg, is acting up. And something I noticed, Jim, I don't know if there was any callback intended, but did you notice how he was punching it? He was hitting it. And it reminded me a little of Kylo Ren. There were moments when he was kind of more gently just kind of pressing it, but then there were a couple of times he was actually hitting it. He's frustrated, obviously, with it, but maybe he was using that for, I don't know, to get his hate all worked up or something.
Well, that's just it. The pain, I believe, sharpens their focus and connection to the dark side of the Force. The more he's hurting, the more, as long as he could stand and fight, he's being fueled by the Force because of that injury. It's making him stronger, actually. Mm-hmm. And as far as his connection to the Force goes, physically, obviously, he's at a deficit, but the pain makes him stronger. The Force. That's why Kylo Ren was punching himself in the side, was because that's like dark side Force nourishment almost.
Yeah. So we've got, he's injured. He ends up watching Scorn get killed at the hands of one of the Inquisitors. I think it was the Crow that came up behind him.
It was the Crow. He gets distracted. What happens is the Crow is about ready to deliver the killing blow on Maul. Scorn rushes in and shoves the Crow, and then Marok distracts Scorn, and at that moment, the Crow then sticks the blade right through Scorn's back. Brother!
and that seems, that brother call out. Now, there's the Crow behind Scorn, and we see the look on Maul's face. And what kind of surprised me here was that this implies that Maul has feeling when it comes to at least this guy. I mean, you see the loss in his eyes. You can see it, like he's shaken up by this. Now, someone on the chat was saying that maybe it was Icarus's call out to brother that took Maul back to his own loss of his brother.
Yeah. But
he does get awfully pissed off. He gets real angry when this all goes down and we lose Scorn. Oh, Scorn, we hardly knew ye. We didn't really get a lot out of Scorn, but we're going to get a lot less of him going forward because he not only was he stabbed, but then he was force pushed off the cliff and into the water.
Poor Scorn. Bad day. But, I think that is what happened was when he heard Icarus yell, brother, that kind of gave him a flashback to Savage's death. I don't think Maul was showing any signs of compassion for the loss of Scorn. If anything, Maul is upset because the Inquisitors took away something that belonged to Maul. So it's not the loss of Scorn necessarily, but it's Maul feeling like he lost something. Hey, you took one of my best warriors. Now I'm not as strong as I used to be because I don't have the same militia I once had without good old Scorn.
All right, so
I could always count on him.
You think this look that we're looking at right here, this is the look of a guy that's mad because he lost some property?
Yes. Well, no, I think that's him flashing back to the death of his brother, his own brother.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I agree
this
with
is
whoever
layered.
said that in the chat.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Now, Scorn, he's gone. And you're right, we barely got to know him. He was voiced by Dave Fennoy, who is best known as the voice of Jedi General Pong Krell from season 4 of the Clone Wars. Did you know that, Swank?
I did not know that. Did not know that.
So, goodbye, Scorn. You're going where Pong Krell is. Straight to hell. Straight to hell with Krell. But if there is a hell in the Star Wars universe, maybe Pong Krell ended up there. I don't know. He was sliding to the dark side in that Umbara arc, season 4. So Maul then, to get out of this situation, causes the cave-in, and that's what ends this episode.
Mm-hmm.
It cuts to black. And how many times did these episodes cut to black, faking you out, thinking the credits were going to start rolling?
A couple of times.
That happened. It must have happened 5 times over the course of these 2 episodes. I was like, well, that's it. Credits rolling. Oh, there's more. We're back at Janix HQ. How exciting. But yeah, they faked me out a few times. But with the cave-in, that was the final fade to black. And then they did roll credits.
Well, they are pulling out all the stops to bring this guy in, bring in Maul. And I'm wondering if it's about Palpatine tying up a loose end, or is it that Maul represents a future that he's too dangerous to be kept alive? That was when the Inquisitor tells Maul, because the last Palpatine dealt with Maul, he killed his brother, as you laid out. He killed his brother, but he kept Maul alive and put him in prison.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're Maul, you're thinking, he kept me alive for a reason. Maybe, and this is sick, but this is a very twisted relationship that these two have. Mm-hmm. And he's so scarred because this was the only father figure he ever had. Maybe he still needs me for something, and he's gonna come. He's good, and maybe just somehow we'll pick up where we left off. That obviously doesn't happen, but it's still in the back of his mind until he sees these Inquisitors, and the Inquisitor says he doesn't want you; he wants you dead, and that's the final blow. Wait a minute, he wants me dead. So the question is, why does he want him dead? Is it as simple as hunting down a loose end, or is it that he represents a future, that Maul is too dangerous to be kept alive, that of what he's capable of?
Or C, all of the above.
Okay.
Because it is true that after Palpatine killed Savage Opress and imprisoned Maul, he said he did so because he had other plans for Maul, other uses for him.
That's right, yes. There may be other uses for you.
But because of the fact that those stories never got told, and they really should have, the stories about Maul getting out of prison and Palpatine's other plans for him and all of that, that stuff was told in a comic book. And it's just not good enough. They really should have filled in those blanks with a fresh take on that chapter, perhaps in this show, or maybe they'll do another flashback where Maul is looking at a puddle, sees young Maul in there, and then he goes off on a trip and starts flashing back to all these things that happened in the past. Maul's vision, when he sees his younger self in the puddle, the younger self says, "I'm sorry." He goes, "I'm sorry." And why do you think he is apologizing?
Wow, you're catching me way off guard. I didn't see that line or hear that line. What I heard was Maul dismissing that image and saying, "I hate you," and he wipes the puddle.
You apologetic wimp. I hate you. But he's apologized. He does say that's the only thing the vision says. Young Maul.
Okay, I'll go with this. Maybe young Maul is apologizing to his future self for ever going with Palpatine.
That's right.
being complicit.
That's the correct answer. And he didn't, obviously didn't realize what he was leaving the Knight brothers for. I mean, he didn't realize that he was going to throw his whole life away. He was probably promised power and money and wealth and rule of the galaxy side by side with Palpatine. And that was the plan. But once Maul was killed off by Obi-Wan, apparently, it's interesting that I would like it if this show maybe would address that part where Maul somehow has a conversation with Palpatine and says, hey, once you discovered I was out there in the galaxy, why didn't you come get me? Why did you just leave me and my brother out there? Yeah. Why didn't you come get me?
Well, I'd moved on, Christopher Lee was available. And I had to get him before he had to go shoot Lord of the Rings. What do you want from me?
I mean, Christopher Lee. It's hard to. It's hard to say no to.
I could see why you did that. Christopher Lee, he's a wonderful actor. Wonderful.
Oh my Lord! Yes. Necessary.
That's good. Love that.
Okay, so this is important. Maul says, "I hate you" to his past self. So this is how he opens this whole this journey, because he comes full circle. He's confronted with his younger self, an image of his younger self later on. But and we talked about this. It's towards the top of the show, but I think it's so good. It's worth going through this imagery of him and young Savage and Don't Go, and Palpatine with the creepy hand, and he takes the hand and he walks. This is so this is really disturbing stuff. It's very predatory and it's gross. But I mean, it's evil. It's evil is what it is. And Palpatine and him dueling, and there's some dialogue there where Palpatine says, when your focus is feeble, my young apprentice. Now strike at me. Pathetic. And that's when and young Maul is saying, no, master, please don't, no. And then he hitting him with the lightning, and this is horrible. This is horrible stuff. It's so horrible that Pepper Spray Johnny wants to apparently chime in here and talk a little bit about trauma. And that's what this is all about. This is absolute trauma, though I think Jimmy Mack and I are going to disagree on the result of this trauma and where it leaves Maul, but we'll find out. So, hey, Pepper Spray, what say you on these flashbacks and what's going on with Maul?
Thanks for taking my call tonight, guys. Really appreciate it. It's a good nightcap for my Tuesday night. I was talking with Tyler a minute ago. And at the end of the day, it's very obvious that this show is about personal trauma and someone trying to process through it. I think we've all been there with different things that have, significantly changed our lives, probably sometimes not for the better. And we have a character like Darth Maul, who I think we all kind of knew, like in the back of our heads, that he probably wasn't treated very well by the Emperor, by Palpatine, and that he was probably recruited pretty young and conditioned into this weapon, this soldier. Mm-hmm. And then he got thrown away, and now he's, trying to reclaim some bit of his life. But the trauma has scarred him to the point where he can only focus on the hate and the rage and the vengeance, to the point where he is in a place in his life where, he's not living a opulent Sith or dark side lifestyle. He's running in sewers. He's constantly getting into fights, and he's scarred by the results of his past. And like you said earlier, just a few minutes ago, he looks at his past self and he says, "I hate you." This is, it's all about personal trauma, and the character seems to be kind of like really trying to process all that And, at the end of the day, I think, a lot of people constantly, of their own volition in their real lives, tend to, blame themselves or look at their past or see that person that they used to be, or, have, struggle with the consequences of their actions later on in life, and all this kind of stuff. I think that's what we're seeing Maul do right now.
Right. We are. Let's talk about where Maul ends up, because we see him dismiss and say that he hates his younger self. And then we see this after he relives all of this trauma, and he sees his younger self here.
Mm-hmm.
And then it looks to me like it morphs into, this doesn't look like current Maul. This still looks like a younger version of Maul.
Mm-hmm.
But is this acceptance? What's the resolution here? Where does Maul end up on the other side of this?
Well, he has this resolve. If I can, just real quick, caller. He has this resolve because this is when the vision of his younger self apologizes. And he says, I'm not going to let this happen to other people. I'm not going to let this happen anymore. Palpatine is not going to continue to destroy lives. So Maul has a cause that he's fighting for now. It's more than just revenge. It's to stop the evil. It's to stop other lives from getting destroyed. So he has legitimate purpose.
So he's a good guy now. This is his face turn.
Not necessarily, but I mean,
is he?
I don't think he's necessarily apologetic for the things he's done, but he's had everything taken away from him by Palpatine. And so he's blaming Palpatine for the loss. And he's fueled by the vision of his younger self apologizing. And he remembers that he was that person who had his entire life ahead of him. And instead he went with Palpatine, and that ended up making him lose everything that was important to him. His mom, his brother, his hometown.
Yeah, his home world. Yeah, everything was taken from him. Yes.
Yes. So now he's not just like, oh, I have to get revenge. And because that's something that happens with people who have PTSD too, is that they think if they get revenge, that will solve everything. And it doesn't. But that's just where their headset is. But now Maul has a higher cause, I believe, where it's not just about him anymore. It's future lives that Palpatine could potentially destroy one at a time.
Okay. All right. And then, Johnny, do you want to weigh in on this, where we see Maul on the other end of this? Because
I was just going to say, I was just going to add that I was going to basically say the same thing that Jimmy said. And basically, I agree with you. The way that I would word it is the way I was going to say is, yeah, he had a psychological breakthrough, I think there was just like something snapped, and he was like, look, I see, he wants. I feel, I don't know. I told you guys a couple of weeks ago that and I said it in a super chat that I think he's going to have some sort of confrontation with the light side of the Force, and I think it may be subtle like this. I think he is just kind of just seeing some. He wants to be better. I hate to say it that way, but I think there's something inside of him that wants to be better. I know that sounds corny.
I don't think it sounds corny at all, because I don't care. I shouldn't say no matter who you are, but I think that you have to be a really gone individual for you not to feel the sense that you could be better, that there could be a better way. Particularly if we're following the narrative here where he is working through this trauma. And I think you're absolutely right, Johnny. Thanks for the call, by the way. That's exactly what this is. This is trauma. But Jim, what does this mean if he wants to stop Palpatine from this happening to someone else? What does this mean for his wishes for Devin? His desire to take her on as an apprentice? Does this change anything?
Yeah, no, he needs her now more than ever. He's going to continue following those visions that revealed he would have an apprentice. And he's going to continue to chase Devin to be that apprentice. He needs her because he can't take on the Empire by himself. And he knows this. He knows this.
Do you think this would change the way he intends to train her?
Oh,
I mean,
hey, that's a good question. Right. Through reviewing his past, and we're there with him as an audience.
Mm-hmm.
We're reviewing his past too. And we're seeing that he rejects Palpatine. And that specific moment when they show the training and Palpatine is torturing him and belittling him and talking down to him and torturing him. It's just, did I say torture twice? It's Sith lightning. You have to pay it that kind of respect.
Go Sith lightning, go Sith lightning.
But he's rejecting that past of his own. He's completely rejecting it. So, but that's all he knows. So he can't just advance into become some like benevolent Jedi type individual because he has no knowledge of that.
Right.
And
we know that's not in his future. We know his future is the head of a crime syndicate. A big one too.
Yes. But I believe that's just a way to build power to take down the Empire.
Is it a cover?
I think that's his goal, is to grow eventually the Crimson Dawn into a force that the Empire would have to reckon with. And that would give him his opportunity then to get close to Palpatine and make his attempt on Palpatine's life and potentially overthrow the Empire itself. But as we were wondering, you can't just walk in there, kill Palpatine, sit down in his throne and say, I'm in charge. This isn't Mandalore. Right. So you need some significant militia behind you or an army or a Crimson Dawn to be able to put yourself in that position to actually rival the Empire itself. You can't just be one guy and his apprentice walking in there. It's not going to work. He needs to have some sort of foundation.
The more I look at these two screenshots here, and this is something that I feel like I missed, and this is where sometimes, as much as I love the style of this, sometimes I think detail gets missed because, but I think that's on purpose here. But this is clearly young Maul. And what we see in this one is what appears to be young Maul on the one side of the face and current Maul on the other side of the face. So it is a merging of the two characters in a sense. It's a merging of the young Maul who apologizes to the current Maul, and they are somehow unifying under this new mission to stop this evil, stop this from happening to others. This is definitely new to the canon for Maul psychologically. This is something that we never would have guessed when the last time we saw him, he was just running around looking for Kenobi, right?
Again, hell bent on revenge. But what you're referencing to actually further down in the future on the timeline.
Correct.
So
again, like I opened up with this episode saying, how many times can this guy keep rebuilding himself? Because he keeps getting knocked down and he rebuilds himself, and it's something, slightly different. But, and then, there's this sort of surprise ending where he gets the call, or Vario gets the call from Dryden Voss that he wants an audience with Darth Maul. Now, okay, yeah, this is the same Dryden Voss of that figured into the Solo movie. And it looked to us at the time as though Maul's in charge. And by Kira killing Voss, like she does in the Solo film, that gave her the number 2 seat. That's how I interpreted that. But now we know that Voss, well, I shouldn't assume. Maybe Voss isn't running it just popped out of my head. The Crimson Dawn. Yeah. So maybe he's not running it. Maybe he's just a soldier. Maybe he's just a capo in this family, and he wants an audience with Maul because together maybe they can take this over. Because it's the only way I can kind of figure out, Jim, if he's calling up Maul, he's like, hey, I want to talk to you. I think we could do business together. How's Maul convince this guy to go, okay, yeah, we'll do business, but I'm going to be the top boss, and you're going to be the underboss? I don't know how that really goes down.
You're right. How does that go down? Well, these are the mysteries that this show has been created to solve, I think, because I don't have any idea, and I've never really been very happy with the Darth Maul appearance in Crimson Dawn. And also, I think including Darth Maul in the animated Rebel series was the worst thing in the world they could have done to that character. It was so unnecessary, and it's really boxed them in. And it at times tempers my enjoyment of this series because I know where it's all heading.
Just a desert rat wandering around looking and screaming into the wind looking for Kenobi.
Yeah. It seems like he's progressing to someplace interesting in this particular series. But then when we meet up with him in Rebels, it seems like he's regressed.
Yeah.
Where he's a spider leg away from ending up back in the dump.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. All right.
So yeah, they've kind of made a mess of Maul. I gotta say, and I really hope.
Well, maybe this will sort it out.
That's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm hoping. But it's really put the storytelling in a box, and when we talk about character growth and evolution and things like that, I think our conversations get naturally limited by the fact we know how Maul's story ends.
Right. Yeah. And so it's almost like you get different Mauls. There's the Rebels Maul. There's the Clone Wars Maul. Now we have the Shadow Lord Maul. So it's the same character, but they've got to create that connective tissue where one leads to the other, leads to the other. So let's go back to the phones and talk to David from Boston. David, how are you?
Chut, guys.
Chut.
Good. How are you?
Doing real well.
Well, you made that. Well, dude, Jimmy, you just made that comment about, well, we know how Maul ends, but, well, think about it. Before the prequels, we knew how Vader ended. So it didn't, learning Anakin's story, I think kind of made, Vader much more interesting. That thought just came to me. But what I've been, it's funny. I was talking with Peter Beiser and I were talking tonight and saying how much we enjoyed the show because of how cinematic it is. And Scott St. Louis and I were talking about, especially the first influences, seeing the influences from other movies, with Star Wars. And one thing I've really seen is Godfather influences in this. And there's a part of Maul that's really reminding me of Michael Corleone, especially, had the dark side not taken him over, and now he's going to become this mob boss. It's business, not personal. He doesn't want to be alone. He kind of wants to have his own empire. He does kind of have a code of ethics. He just doesn't kill indiscriminately. And but also it's funny how he doesn't have his legs anymore. It's like he's kind of a mess. He's like, as you pointed out in the shot before with the younger and the older self, there's something really scrambled about him. And he's just, he's becoming a fascinating character. And I'm curious to see where the show's going to progress.
Yeah, well, I'm certainly glad that we're getting another season. I don't think we're going to be wrapping anything up neat and tidy in the next 2 episodes. I think we're going to be, in fact, they might be dropping something bigger on us. I think we'll see Dryden Voss. Will we see Akira? Maybe that'll be the last shot that we see. But here's a thought that I want.
No.
Jimmy Mack disagrees. Okay.
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to tell because Solo, obviously, it's told during a wide stretch of the timeline. You have the young Han and Kira on Corellia, and then Han joins the Empire, and then he becomes a smuggler. So several years go by.
Okay.
In
I hear
that
what you're
Solo
saying. Yeah,
film.
you're right.
So it's sort of hard to tell where it is on the timeline, but they've placed Maul prior to Solo on
You're
the
right.
timeline.
You're right.
So I think maybe Kira might be too young because I've been speculating this myself, but then I've been thinking about it. And I believe that because the Empire is definitely in charge when you see young Han and young Kira at the beginning of Solo. We know the Empire is in charge. We see stormtroopers.
Sure.
We see Corellia shipyards building Star Destroyers, etc. So we know this is all post Clone Wars. So I think the beginning of the Solo film may happen like right around this time frame, which means Kira would still be stuck
she'd be on
Corellia.
Coruscant. Yeah, answering to what that big, whatever that thing was, the big worm lady.
Worm lady.
Well,
And
the question
I think
is this like?
Go ahead, Carl.
Oh no, I just talking about the timeline. The question I'm trying to figure out is this about what, say, a couple of years after the Siege of Mandalore at the end of Clone Wars? Or are we further on the road on that?
I think we're about 2 years. I think we're about 2 years from Order 66, somewhere a year and a half, 2 years.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you remember in that Marquez story there, Maul was, I believe Drayden Voss was in that hologram with all the stuff. So whatever the little Kara said, well, you're going to introduce you to Dryden Voss, but it's like, well, maybe never met in person, but you've seen each other in a hologram. So
yeah,
we
did see Dryden, whatever. Well. We did see him as in animation there, and it was a Tales of. Is that what it was?
No, it was the Siege of Mandalore, season 7 of the Clone Wars.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
Yeah, it was the Marquez thing where, Bo-Katan and where they're on that plant before the whole Siege of Mandalore starts, because Maul's, and then, that leads to them going to Kenobi and to.
Yeah, at that point though, is Voss a big deal? I'm blanking on this, or I remember the look of the character in animation, but I don't remember much about what kind of weight he carried as a character at that point.
I believe he would have been the head of Crimson Dawn because Maul was addressing the leaders of these other crime families. And
there you go.
Was among the leaders with the Pikes and
right.
And
good point. So we're talking about a guy, because I threw out the possibility and some on the chat said, oh, maybe that works, where he wants to scheme with Maul to take over Crimson Dawn. Maybe he's a lower level guy, but based on his previous appearance, he's not a lower level guy in the timeline.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Hey, something else about the timeline. I had said, I believe the early parts of Solo, when they show young Han and Kira living on Corellia, I was speculating that stuff may happen right around the same period as this series is taking place.
Mm-hmm.
But Rich Brendel in the chat points out something really good. no McQuarrie style troopers in Solo and at the beginning. So they'd obviously transformed the troopers into the stormtroopers we know
The regular
from the original
TKs.
trilogy by the beginning of the Solo film. Here, we're still dealing with TKs. Something else I want to point out, and this was a topic of conversation on the Patreon page, was these TK troopers, are they enlisted men or are they clones? And so I think we here on the show had assumed that they were all regular citizens of the Republic who had enlisted and become part of the Imperial Army. But I don't think that's true, because according to the data bank on StarWars.com, for the TK trooper specifically, in that entry, it says that the TK troopers are a phase 3 clone trooper design that was never used, obviously, because the Clone Wars came to an end. But then when it came time to build the Imperial Army, they had this armor ready to go. So they started outfitting these TK stormtroopers with armor that was to be used by clone troopers had that program continued into the future and the war continued, but it didn't. So the Empire started phasing out clone troopers naturally. They say naturally in quotes.
Sure.
But they start phasing them out. So right now you might be dealing with clone troopers and enlisted troopers.
Yes, I agree with that.
But I don't think that's going to be addressed in the show at all, and it doesn't really matter.
No, but I'm glad you brought it up, because if there's one thing we know about Dave Filoni is that the guy loves clones. And he loves when they take their helmets off, and he loves to expand on that story. And so I have this feeling like if there was any clone element in this show at all, especially with these guys being wiped out, and they're being wiped out, they're not being stunned. In fact, we do see the return of the stun bolts in this episode.
Yeah, we do, but that's for Two Boots, and obviously his programming does not allow him to kill Imperial troopers.
Correct. But the idea is that the stun bolts still exist, right? In the universe.
It does.
So they're using them. So
Yes,
it's a deliberate choice to see these guys, these troopers, cut down. And I would go so far as to say it's a deliberate choice to not visually link them to the clones. Though, from a timeline standpoint, I think you have to be correct that we're dealing with a hybrid army of conscripted troops as well as clone troopers. So I think you're right.
But again, I don't think it's going to be addressed on the show at all.
It's not a thing, right? It's not relevant to the show. All right, back to the phones here. Let's go with, oh my goodness, we definitely gotta talk to this guy because it's time.
It's time for Blake's Take.
Hey, Blake. Welcome back to the show,
Hey,
buddy.
Chut.
Chut. What is going on? I see what you're up to, Blake. You skip out on the majority of these shows so you can come in on the penultimate episode and lay down a bunch of predictions for the next 2 episodes while we sweat it out here every week, right?
That's exactly what I'm doing.
Well, we're glad to have you back. What are your thoughts on where we're at with this show so far? 6 episodes in, 2 more to go. Sorry, 8 episodes in, 2 more to go.
I've loved this show. See, I know you guys were talking about earlier how you guys think it's better than the Bad Batch.
I do.
I personally, I don't think it's there yet. Something like really good needs to happen in these last 2 episodes for it to officially be better. But it's like kind of on the edge. If these next 2 episodes are not like exciting and they're like a little bit underwhelming than I want them to be, then I'll have to wait till season 2.
All right. Well, show me where. I'm just out of curiosity. Tell me, like, if this is not better than Bad Batch at this point, at this stage, which I contend that it is.
Yeah.
Tell me what made Bad Batch so much better. What were you getting out of Bad Batch that you're not getting out of the Maul series so far?
I feel like the characters were more in Bad Batch. The characters, you could somewhat like relate to them a little. Some of them, like they each had their own personality, but in Maul, all the people basically act the same.
Okay.
Like they're all bad guys.
Okay. What about the good
And,
guys?
Like I love bad guys. I love watching the bad guys.
Oh, we know it.
But
Yeah,
when
we know
it's
about
just
you.
bad guys. When it's just bad guys, it's not as exciting. I like the Jedis, but they're like 50-50. I mean,
Well, you know what the deal
like
is?
they're
I
helping
think
out Maul.
I know what you're saying here, Teen Blake, is that we don't have any real heroes in this show. Everyone is on the run.
Yeah.
Everyone is reactionary. Who are the heroes?
Yeah.
I mean, sure, the cops, they're supposed to be out there protecting the citizens of Janix and everything. So naturally we want to root for them. But I mean, those are guys doing their jobs. Where are the real heroes here? That's what I'd like to know.
The most hero-like guy that has been in the show has been Two Boots.
Yes.
He's been like the hero.
He's been a couple of things, and Hero is among those, especially in that 8th episode when he finally turns on the Empire, does the right thing, returns Riley to his father, and basically sticks one of his 2 boots up the butt of the Empire. That's what we've been waiting for. And
pours
I
a
would
cup
say
of coffee
that
over its head.
I would say that was very heroic. But we've not seen any like true heroism happen in this show. I don't think. I mean, we did see Devin attempt to rescue Riley when he got taken in by the Empire.
But to your
she
point, though,
failed at
Jim,
that.
that's reactionary. I
That's
am
reactionary.
really back on my heels with this word reactionary. And I think that's a really good point, is that everyone's reacting to something, but the quote unquote heroes in this story are not taking charge and proactively moving. That is something I had not considered. I still think it's better than
not
Bad
yet,
Batch,
at
but-
least. Not
Yeah,
yet,
right?
at
Not
least.
yet.
I'd
This
like
is
to think
getting
that
all
this
the
story-
chess pieces on the board. You know, this first season, right?
Yes, I believe that's been the purpose of this entire season, is so to set up the real story, which we haven't even seen yet. And the real story is the relationship between Devin and Maul. But that hasn't come to fruition yet. They're still dancing the dance. Cat and
Right.
mouse, whatever you want to call it.
Well, Blake, I would say, I mean, I think that your critiques of the show are really, really solid. But I am a little bit surprised that it's maybe a little too dark and a little too villainous, even for you, who is a devout bad guy lover when it comes to the galaxy far, far away. But even the Joker needs his Batman, right? So where's the hero?
I know you guys are completely going to disagree with this, and you're going to say it's a stupid thing, but you got to think about this. This is Disney. They love making like heroes and all this stuff. And the son, we're going to find out he's force sensitive. That's what I think.
I don't hate it from a standpoint of where I don't think it's possible, that I think it's impossible. I just struggle with that being the need from his character. I think for me, the need of his character is not to introduce another force sensitive. It's to show Devin an alternative path. I think he's going to represent an alternative path away from Maul, even away from Daki. Maybe more of a happily ever after possibility, a normal life, perhaps. That's the role that I see for him. But again, I could be way off base. Why would that be a good thing, or why do you see that happening? Just because it's Disney?
Well, whenever we find out, well, that too. But in Ahsoka, like when we see like Sabine Force sensitive, like there's hints to it, and like it slowly builds up.
I don't see, but here's the thing with Sabine. I mean, yeah, I think it was a mistake to make Sabine any kind of a Force user, but there's nothing so far that I can see with Riley that would give us that hint, other than the fact he's a great athlete. So maybe that's it. The fact that he's good at space lacrosse. I
can agree with that.
Yeah, he's just space lacrosse just took all the words right out of his mouth. But you want to respond to that, Blake?
I don't have much to say about that part. I've got other stuff that I've been thinking about.
Well, give us your biggest, boldest, other than Riley being Force sensitive. What do you think we're going to see next week? Okay. Or rather, what do you need to see next week to where you'll agree with me and say that this is better than Bad Batch?
Okay, I know last time I called in, I talked about how Vader is going to show up in this series.
Mm-hmm.
And earlier in the show, you guys were talking about whenever Marok was kneeling to the holocron, and you guys don't think it's Crow, the crow face guy.
No.
You think it's Palpatine.
Yes.
But I think since Vader's basically in charge of the Inquisitors, he was kneeling to Vader.
Yeah. That makes the most
and so
sense.
That's probably who he was talking to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And I think Vader's, me personally, if I was Darth Vader and the guy who I work for could easily kill me in a heartbeat, and the guys I sent out to do a job aren't doing the job good, I'm going to want to show up and stop them from like keep escaping, because Maul keeps doing that. The Jedis are escaping. They're not doing like what they need to do. So I think that Vader is definitely going to show up, and it's going to be because of Vario. How in the last episode he's talking to like the Pike someone to the syndicates.
Yeah, he's talking to a representative of Drayden Voss. Yeah.
And so I think he even says, like, they make sure to point this out. She goes, the Empire can like hear like what like over the transmissions. They're trying to find everyone. They're listening. And he goes, oh, it's encoded. They won't find out. And then keeps talking.
Yeah.
I think that's how Vader's gonna show up. It's gonna be a big dramatic entrance. You're gonna see the shuttle just fly down, and you're just gonna see smoke coming out, the lightsaber turn on, and you know it's Vader.
And then it's gonna cut to black, and we'll see you next year for season 2.
Next year, try in 3 years.
Well, right.
The way they made us wait between these seasons.
Brutal.
It's all. So
Blake, that was great, man. Thank you very much. And we'll definitely catch up with you next week for sure. Yeah, Jim, I hope they get this thing out in a year. I really do. The fact that they've already announced season 2 means that they very well could be well into production of season 2, which could maybe get us another season on the air next year around this same time. But I don't want 18, 20, 24 months in between these seasons. That's a terrible way to keep momentum, especially if this thing is building. And I think the reputation on this show is getting there. It's getting there. I don't think the numbers are anything to write home about, but that could be true probably for a lot of the original programming on Disney Plus.
Yeah, they said they had something like 4 million viewers in the first few days. That's some pretty big numbers for the way television is viewed these days. It's not record breaking by any means, but it's healthy. It's very healthy 4 million in the first 5 days or whatever.
First 5 days of the first episode. I wonder where it is now. I'd love to know at after episode 7 and 8.
Now, something that IGN reported was that despite the early announcement of a season 2, executive producer Athena Portillo noted that other upcoming Star Wars projects may take priority before new episodes of the Maul series are released. So they're gonna make us go through a bunch of whiplash with a bunch of other series or shorts, and we'll just be saying, "Well, where's Maul season 2?" But they'll throw a bunch of other things at us that we probably won't care much about, like the great Star Wars anime experiment that apparently is never going to end.
This is when they really need to get their shit together. They've got to be nimble enough. They've got to be nimble enough to when the fan reaction is such that this thing has got legs, that they're able to follow it up. I think this is ridiculous. And sorry, if your production values are such that you can't do that, then maybe we got to lower our standards a little bit, because I'd rather have continuity of story, frankly, and momentum with the storytelling than peak animation. Though I appreciate it and I love it and I'm complimentary of it, and it's great when we get it, but to wait 3 years, 2.5 years or whatever between, baloney, and then to be distracted by a bunch of other crap just to see what sticks again.
Well, you're losing you're losing focus when you prioritize moving on to projects like Star Wars anime.
Yeah.
Anime has nothing to do with Star Wars. It doesn't mix well, and nobody cares.
That's Filoni getting his rocks off. I'm sorry, that's all it is.
And pandering to something that is perceived as a hot segment of pop culture these days. Oh,
Yes.
Anime's hot. We must make Star Wars into anime. Guys, you're taking your eye off the ball again. Again, it's like you have no confidence over there in the actual franchise you're managing, because you constantly are looking to the outside for help? What do you need? Crutches to make Star Wars work? No.
And it's
focus on Star Wars.
And it's worse than that. They don't, as soon as whatever they've made goes out into the public, that's when they act like they want to run away from it and do a bunch of other stuff.
And
shows
we
no
as an
confidence.
audience, and then we as a fan base have whiplash from the constant jerking around we go through by merely just trying to follow these stories. It's ridiculous. Get some focus.
Yeah.
And then you will see success.
How in the world were they able to get out a full season of 22 episodes of the Clone Wars every year?
How were they able to do that? Great leadership in George Lucas, who wanted it done.
That's right.
And he wanted it done, and he wasn't going to go over budget. You had to figure out the best way to get it done, and you have to meet the deadlines. With Disney owning Lucasfilm, resources are endless. They can throw as much money at stuff that they want. They can accept failure in the streaming age and just bounce into the next thing. It's the Netflix model, where entertainment becomes disposable. And that does not mix well with Star Wars, which is never to be treated as disposable. It's a mythology that needs to be honored and respected. But
Right. Yeah. The
not a
Iliad
product.
is just a throwaway. It's crazy. All right, one more call here, and then we'll get some super chats and start to wrap this up. Let's go to Marty from Georgia. Marty, a Patreon supporter of us here at RFR. Welcome back to the show, Marty.
Hey, chut, fellas.
Chut.
Thank you for taking my call.
Certainly.
I'll keep it simple. I really like the Inquisitors right now. I think that they feel very Terminator-esque. They don't say much. They have a mission, and quite frankly, they're pretty scary. And
I think they're very scary. Yeah.
I'm Yeah, like that scene where the Crow walks into Riley's interrogation room and just doesn't say a word, but is just tall and menacing. And also, as someone who's also stupid tall, I appreciated how Crow had to duck to get into the room.
I love that. I love that. I thought that was a really nice touch to give scale to the character. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. So I think that, like you guys talked about, they are making the Inquisitors scary again. And maybe that's because Filoni's in charge now, and he is kind of doing away with the kind of villain of the week-esque Inquisitor that are just disposable. I really want to see the scary Inquisitor theme continue in more Star Wars projects. I don't know quite where they would slate in based on what's coming up outside of Maul.
Mm-hmm.
But I really want to see more. Like these two guys, Marak and the Crow, really made me want to see more of them. So
yeah,
that's just my thoughts on.
They're effective. They're effective, and this show, according to Sam Witwer, was about bad guys and worse guys, and that's definitely becoming true. And I think we got the worst guys right there. So thanks a lot, Marty. Appreciate it. Hey, speaking of worst guys. A few loose ends here I want to mention. One, we do have confirmation that Chief Kleiss is dead.
Oh, yeah.
And Two Boots gets this explained to him. I'm not the name of this character. We saw him before. He's the one that tells Lawson that he's got a call from his Uncle Docky or whatever, the same guy.
Yeah,
anyway, can't think of his name. But anyway, he has to let Two Boots in on a little secret. Hey, what are you, crazy? The chief's gone. She's dead. Which helps to awaken him a little bit. The other thing I wanted to mention is our Lady of the Night, Rena Sol. Is it a sacrifice? I don't know. We see her kind of in a Lando Calrissian type position where she kind of has to make a deal with the devil here. And as she's providing, according to what Lawson and in the ensemble, they believe is she's providing transport out of Janix, but it's a trap. And insert sound. Yeah, it's a trap. I'm so over that one. I didn't even want to do it, but it's definitely a trap.
But you did it anyway.
But I did.
It's
a trap, and they didn't spring the trap, as Obi-Wan talks about in Ep 3. But nevertheless, it's actually Rena that when she says, "I'll get you to Calator,"
yes.
to Lawson, there must have been something that happened on Catalor between the two of them. And do we know, Jim, what it is?
Yeah. In episode 6. Lawson reveals that he used to travel around a lot with Rena Sol.
Right.
They were both bounty hunters. They got into a scrape on Catalor, and they saved each other's lives. But the mention of that planet, I think, is the red flag. Obviously, it is to Brander Lawson. There's something that hasn't been revealed. He must have said to her something like when they left Catalor, like, "I'm never coming back here again." There
Right.
must have been something like that. And so for her to say, "Your transport's taking you to Catalor," he knew right away something's up, because I told that woman I am never going to Catalor again. And so she's definitely dropping him a clue. Now, the question is, it sure appears that she made the ultimate sacrifice for them and allowing them to escape. She grabs a blaster from the trooper, shoots the ship's engine, causing it to explode, apparently killing her, Blake, and all the troopers.
Yeah.
Now, Marak and the Crow were there, but they were close to the lift. And they turned around and looked right at the last minute. So, and obviously, they're alive because they live on. Marak lives on in Ahsoka. The Crow lives on to be defeated by Ahsoka in the Tales of the Empire.
Yeah.
Shorts.
So,
or Tales of the Jedi.
Are you thinking Rena's out? Or my thought was maybe she was doing this to create a distraction show, so she could escape. But maybe she was
massive
just trying to
explosion.
take as many of them out as possible.
That's what it appeared. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she got wiped out along with the other troopers and Blake.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we didn't see a body. And
Right.
we know how these things work. She might have jumped into a open manhole or something at the last second, but everyone else died.
It wouldn't really serve the story, would it? I just think they've moved on from the need for that character and for her to survive. I think that it's a great way out for the character. She sacrificed herself.
Yeah, that's what I think happened.
So, but what sort of tips Lawson off to call Rena and sort of verify or feel her out was Devin was definitely getting a tremor in the Force.
Oh yeah.
So
both her and Docky.
Yeah.
They both
Oh,
were
was
feeling
Docky
this
too?
thing.
Or was
Yep,
he just
yep.
saying, "Oh, you should believe my Padawan"? I can't
Well,
remember.
he did say, but she was the first to initially react.
Mhm.
I feel like something's wrong, and then he said, "I feel it too."
Okay. All
know
right.
What's going on here? Yeah.
I feel it too, Master. So yeah. So they were feeling all kinds of things, and that's what they were feeling. And then we get to the very, very end here, where Maul is establishing new digs, taking over. What's his name? Nicodemus. Nicodemus's old office. And now one of our last callers was saying that maybe, was it Blake that was saying? Yeah, I think it was Blake that was saying that perhaps that phone call, that transmission that Vario was having as they're there, he's so confident that it's encrypted and no one's going to be able to trace it, and that no one would even think to look at Nicodemus's old office. They would look at Vario's office because Demas is dead. I don't know. Is that? I mean, he lays down two reasons why they'll never find them there. So either that's going to be proven to be very, very untrue in the very next episode, or that's them telling us as the audience, "Hey, this is why the trail is going cold for the Inquisitors, because they're in Demas's place."
No, I think it's foreshadowing something happening along the lines of them being discovered, because this guy's making cell phone calls that can easily be traced. But because the reason I think that is because as somebody who is just watching this show, I don't think I would suddenly sit up in my chair and go, "Why is he calling the Crimson Dawn? Doesn't he know this is going to be traced? Doesn't he know?" Because they never established that threat prior to him making the call. Like nobody ever said, "Vario, do not make any calls because it might get traced and the Empire will find us." It only gets brought up right when he's making that call. So there's nothing to tip us off as audience members that there is a problem with him making that call. So it shouldn't be a threat, but it is, because Rootcast says it is. And from that point forward, it's established as a threat that making any sort of communication with anyone could be traced. And it's been established. It's been foreshadowed. So it's going to happen. They're going to be found. Yeah, they're going to be found.
All right. Well, let's check in with the super chats. You guys are always so generous. Here's Dale's Toy says, Chut Mallrats, missing the chat tonight as I got baseball tickets before the mall dates were announced. See you all next week for the finale. Well, appreciate it and hope you had a good game.
Who was that? Who wrote that?
That was Dale. Dale's Toys.
Dale.
Yeah. Here's David Fieldson. David says, RFR number 1 in 7, Maul tells Devin he has a plan to defeat the Empire. Could Maul have already found the weapon potential of the Sith Temple on Malachor? Is that part of his grand plan?
Maybe eventually he discovers it and we see him discover it and understand what drew him to Malachor and why he set up camp there, like exiled. I believe he was there because he couldn't leave. He didn't have a ship. So we're going to have to see how that all goes down. He was finally able to get off the planet by stealing a TIE fighter. I think it was Vader's TIE fighter even. And he took off in it.
Well, maybe
from
that's why
Malachor.
Vader's so pissed off.
Yeah. I think that's right. I'm, my Rebels history can be a little spotty sometimes, but I think that's what happened. And yeah, that would tie in nicely to the story because it would give us the purpose and the reason why Maul was on Malachor. That makes sense.
Here's Darth A says, who else stayed up till 3 a.m. for these episodes and still went to work at 6? Wow. That is dedication. Says, I love this show. Well, that's awesome. That's Jimmy Mack shit right there.
Well, no. Back in the day, maybe.
Back in the day, yeah.
I do get up a little earlier on Monday mornings, though. I can watch Maul with my bowl of cereal and a cup of coffee. It's great. Nice. I love it.
Here's Kurt Bear tattoo says, chut everyone. I'm at work doing a Padme Nexu tattoo. Well, that's cool timing. But I wanted to pop in and say hi. Loving the incredible character depth this week, RFR number 1. Well, thank you very much, Kurt. Sounds like a cool tattoo. You should send us a picture.
Yeah, as if he's making the moment when the Nexu rips Padme's shirt and she has then the belly shirt on.
Yeah, that's cool.
The best Nexu move I know
of. Adam says, R.I.P. Night Brother. Better come out with a Black Series figure of him. Doesn't look like, come out with a Black Series figure of him. Yeah, I don't think they're going to go that deep. I know that we're going to get a Devin. That's already been revealed. We're going to get Devin as a vintage collection figure as well, which is really cool. I'm glad to see that. So far, we've got Maul as on a card back for the vintage collection. Jim, if you pick that one up, is that one showing up? No. Okay.
No. I'm not buying figures at $20 a piece. I'm just not doing it.
Yeah.
That's the MSRP. So when those Maul figures do go on sale, I'll reevaluate then. But I'm not paying $20 for a 3 3/4 inch action figure. Hasbro. I've been buying these things since 1978. Hasbro, look what you did. You broke me.
P.S. Does it feel like we're getting a season 2 of this show? Well, it should feel that way because we are, and that has been confirmed. Rumors are that there will actually be a 3rd season whenever they get around to it because they've apparently got a bunch of other things they want to do first. Of course they do. Here's Eric from Phoenix. Says, I can't believe how much I'm liking this series. Will we get a Riley lacrosse scene like Flash playing football with the bad guys in Flash Gordon? RFR number 1. Jimmy Mack says that those lacrosse skills are going to come into play this at some point.
I believe so. Remember that Flash Gordon movie where they established the backstory for Flash is that he was a quarterback for the New York Jets, the worst team in football history. The New York Jets, they can never catch a break except when Flash Gordon is their quarterback. And then, yeah, sure. Yeah, that his football skills did actually come into play at one point when dealing with Ming the Merciless and his goons. There was some football plays going down with that Sam Jones. That guy.
Yeah. I haven't seen that in a long time. I hear the Queen music a lot more than I actually see Flash Gordon. But that's one I've got to go revisit. There's a lot of these kind of culty 80s movies that I want to give a rewatch.
It's real campy stuff.
Oh,
real campy stuff. But you get Timothy Dalton in it, which I think is thrilling for a guy like you.
Yes. Big Tim Dalton fan. Yeah. The Salacious One says, brother, in this episode. Brother. Can't wait for the full binge rewatch. It always flows better that way, but loving this. I actually said to a fella at the day job, because he's waiting for, because what he does is he waits for Disney Plus or HBO Max, whatever streamer, to kind of fill up with a bunch of stuff he wants to see. And then he jumps in for a month, pays his $12 or his $15 and then just binges. And I told him today, I said, this is going to be a really good binge show because it's episodic. It's really one story, no filler with this series, which I love. And with 10 episodes, you just can't do it. But I think it's going to play really nicely consecutive when you do on a rewatch.
Yeah, it does play just like one flowing story. There's no separation between the time frame between episodes. As a matter of fact, for the first time I think we've ever seen a Star Wars animated show end with the same 30 seconds it begins with in the next episode. And that's going, and 7 ended with them confronting Maul in the cave, and then Maul causes the cave in, and the next episode begins the exact same way.
But did you notice that they used some alternate shots?
Did they? See, I
were
wanted
a couple of, and they were subtle, but just enough to make me feel like, okay, this is just slightly new.
Okay, so it wasn't exact.
No, but it was this. No, but for all intents and purposes, it was. It was just, I just happened to notice that there were a couple of shots that looked different from what we saw at the end of 7.
The only other time I could ever recall Star Wars doing something similar is the end of The Force Awakens and the beginning of The Last Jedi. But I mean, they weren't recycling footage. It felt like they were recycling footage to me from the end of episode.
And some of it was.
Yeah. So, but maybe there was a bit of dialogue that was a little different too. I didn't really A-B the two scenes necessarily.
Here's Dominique Garant says, I think Riley Lawson is compromised. Either the Crow made a deal with him or placed a tracker on him, but he looked suspicious in the elevator. I don't think there were any deals made. I think that I'm going to take this at face value. Riley said, it's a good thing I didn't know anything. He doesn't know anything. He says that he asked him about Master Daki and Devin, but he didn't know anything. So
that's interesting. I thought, there was something that just sort of rubbed me the wrong way about Riley when he was being marched out of the interrogation by 2 stormtroopers, and he walked past 2 Boots and that other officer.
Yes.
And he didn't acknowledge them. He didn't look at them. He was looking down the whole time, didn't avert his eyesight to them at all, almost as if he maybe couldn't face them, as if he was ashamed.
I think he was just scared.
Or maybe he was just scared.
I think he was just scared because, there's this moment between he and Devin, and she asks him, what happened? After you were captured by the Empire, what happened? She apologizes to him for not being able to protect him. And he says, that thing that attacked us, well, there's a second one. He questioned me. He wanted information about you and Master Daki. I didn't know anything, but who knows what I would have said if I did. And she says, fear is natural. We just can't allow it to control us. So it's okay to be afraid. I take that all at face value there. I'm not going to read anything into it, but it's possible.
Yeah. It's worth observing and making a note of, but I wouldn't put my eggs in that basket predicting that he's somehow working on behalf of the Crow and the Empire, or that he knows something, or that he's going to betray the gang. He wouldn't betray his own father. And it seems like I think they're kind of indicating to us that there is some legitimate bonding going on here between Devin and Riley.
Yes.
They're the youngest ones. And then she puts her hand on his shoulder, which in Star Wars, that is the equivalent of intercourse, if I am to quote the great Irv Kirchner.
I think the hand on the shoulder might be just first base. I don't know. I don't know if it's a full home run, but
I guess a kiss
was intercourse.
Kirsch said a kiss. Okay. This is like foreplay. This is like, okay.
On that note,
I'm done.
Here's
I'll
Curtis
make more
in Omaha.
jokes when we go off the air. I'll make more jokes.
He said,
you'll be a good audience.
He said, disappointed in the writers, missed an opportunity to bust Riley out of prison by showing up to the station with a stack of pizzas.
Oh, boy.
Right, Jimmy? All right.
Okay.
This is going to require some
Don't
explanation.
don't write Jimmy me on that. You should have said right podcastus, because that's an old podcastus technique for getting out of any jam during a session of RFR RPG, heard exclusively at patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio. Support Rebel Force Radio today and get access to bonus podcasts like RFR RPG, RFR Q&A, the Babu Freaks, and more. Found at patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio. So yeah, it's a podcast, this thing. He shows up with pizzas at like police stations and things like that. He did once. Yeah. Who are we trying to bust out? Oh, Cassian Andor. And so the big plan was to go to the police station with a stack of pizza boxes, because I noted in my personal life that if you go to like a backstage door or something and you have some pizzas, they'll let you walk right in. I got pizza delivery here for Bruce Springsteen, the name says here. Oh yeah, sure, kid, come on in. He's 2 doors down on the left. Okay. And then you just go in there, you ditch the pizzas, and you enjoy the show. So Podcast has tried to pull this off once when we were trying to rescue good old Cassian Andor.
All right.
And all it was attract the attention of Jackson the Rabbit. So it was quite a scene. It's quite a scene. Only to be heard exclusively on RFR RPG at RFR on Patreon, patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio.
All right, Pepper Spray Johnny coming back with a little bit more on this Two Boots heroism. He says on Two Boots heroism, and that he's been, on Two Boots heroism, and that he's been other things beside a hero. It reminded me of the hero's journey. Two Boots ignored the call to action by adhering to protocol, but he sees what the Empire really is now. So, I'm with it. I mean, I'm down with this idea that so far the most heroic character that we've seen in this series is Two Boots, and I'm not saying that as a slam by any means.
No.
So,
his threshold moment was when they took his boots away, and he's like, "Oh, this Empire sucks. I got to do something."
Oh, well, that is going to wrap things up here on the after show for this week. We got another one next week. It's the last one. You don't want to miss it. May 5th. We'll be back Tuesday, May 5th. These final episodes, going to drop May 4th. And that is a bit of a holiday here in the Star Wars community. I don't know how you'll be spending your May 4th, but maybe we'll have some ideas for you on this week's Rebel Force Radio, the weekly Rebel Force Radio. So look for your episode to drop later this week on your podcaster of a choice. But this has been a lot of fun. Special thanks to our good pal and our call screener, Tyler Page. Tyler, thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Thanks for queuing up all the calls for us. Anything stick out to you on these episodes that we didn't get to?
Maybe you talked about it, but I liked them throwing out that Maul still had the throne of Mandalore. I thought that was like an interesting little tidbit. They kind of just shoehorned in there right before. That
he's still technically the ruler?
Yeah, didn't she say that? Didn't Rook?
No. That's not what she was saying. She was saying that she became loyal to him when he took the throne of Mandalore. And she continues to be loyal to him, but the Mando mercs are starting to lose patience because they're not making any money. She was just using that as a point of reference by saying, I've been with you since that. And now I have to deal with these Mandos who don't share that sense of loyalty. They're only loyal to one thing, money. So that's what I think he was. Yeah, I don't believe. And as a matter of fact, when does the Empire attack Mandalore and make the planet glass is what they say. When do they bombard the planet? When does that happen exactly on the timeline? I think it happens after the events of the original trilogy, now that I'm thinking about it. So, so the planet Mandalore is still a happening planet and everything, but I think it's under the rule of the Imperial Mandos at that point in time.
Okay.
Yeah, the Mandos who are loyal to the Empire. And then we see that get resolved in Rebels. Yeah, with Sabine and everything.
Well, so. It's interesting that they're there anyway. And I think Daki has had his full redemption arc. I think he's going to die.
now that he's redeemed?
Yeah. He trusts his Padawan. I think they made that abundantly clear. I don't know what other purpose he serves. So I think it's accurate.
Yeah, what's the character there for? Well, cool, Ty. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it as always. We'll see you next week. And Jimmy Mack, final thoughts, episodes 7 and 8.
Oh, I got thoughts. I got final thoughts. But basically, it's just stuff in my notes we didn't get to during the show. So I've been kind of highlighting a few things here and there. And just like observation-wise, I noticed there were a couple of things we've seen before in Star Wars. When they are running from Maul's hideout, Riley and Devin, they're running, and Riley almost runs over a platform edge, but Devin stops him from falling. She grabs him. It's kind of like Luke and Leia. Whoops, must have taken a wrong turn. Very similar to that. And then I think we see something similar to that in Attack of the Clones as well. So now that we've seen it 3 times in Star Wars with Maul Shadow Lord, it's officially a Star Wars trope. That, whoops, must take the wrong turn. And then something else we've seen before, Maul freezes Devin with the Force, like Kylo does to Rey in The Force Awakens. But Devin is eventually able to break out of his grasp. So that's becoming a thing now. Freezing people when they're fighting you. A lot of like video game Force abilities I've noticed are starting to creep more and more into animated and live action canon. Just an observance, not a complaint. I have to say that because I complain so much, Oh, there he's complaining again. No, I'm just observing, not complaining. What else do I have here? The comlink. Okay. Lawson wants to call Two Boots to check on the situation with Riley, and the comlink is beeping, and Two Boots has to hide it in a data card box. Don't these things have a silent setting? Can't you turn Ring off? I don't know. There's just some things that I have on my iPhone that I think should be relevant in the Star Wars universe, but apparently not. Here's something. When Devin steals a speeder, she steals it from those 3 one-eyed aliens. The only one-eyed aliens I know in Star Wars are the Abyssins, and we see a green one briefly in the Mos Eisley Cantina. I couldn't confirm if these 3 one-eyed aliens were Abyssin, but I thought they were interesting anyway. And so I looked up StarWars.com to find more information on them. And what StarWars.com has to say about this particular sequence is the 3 bullies... The 3 bullies hassling Devin Azara as she tries to secure a hot rod speeder are inspired by the Pharaoh gang from American Graffiti. And so I was thinking to myself, okay, well, if you know American Graffiti, the gang of pharaohs, they meet Richard Dreyfuss as he's sitting on one of their friends' cars. And so they harass him for sitting on the car, and then they throw him in the back of their own car and take him out for a night of craziness. They try to initiate him into the gang, and they make him tie a rope to the back of a police cruiser. So when the police cruiser goes to chase them down the street, it rips the axle off the back of the car. And then they steal money from a bunch of pinball machines, and Richard Dreyfuss covers for them. These are the pharaohs. And in no way, shape, or form do I see any connection between the Pharaoh gang and American Graffiti and the 3 bullies hassling Devin when she tries to steal their speeder. I don't see the connection. I'd like an explanation from StarWars.com because I think they're really reaching at straws here, trying to make this relevant to a George Lucas project. project from the 70s. It seems silly to me. And also, I want to point out, StarWars.com, you spelled the word Pharaoh incorrectly, okay? There's 2 ways in the word Pharaoh, not one. So get it together over there, for crying out loud. I just don't see the connection. That seemed to be pandering to me, just pandering. I did like it at the end when Vario got the call from the representative from Crimson Dawn, because I've been wondering to myself, what is the value and purpose of Vario? Why are we keeping this guy around? Why didn't Maul just kill him already? Why did Vario stick around? It has to do something with his value as far as the story goes. And now we're seeing what it is. Vario has all the underworld connections, and he is the immediate connection between Maul and the Crimson Dawn Dryden boss. We know that Maul eventually overthrows Crimson Dawn, and is maybe he's sort of like you were saying, Jason, Dryden boss might just become their puppet leader in a way, and Maul is really calling the shots behind the scenes, but we're still not really entirely sure on that. Remember when we saw Maul in 2018 and Darth Maul popped on the screen and I lost it? I lost my mind over it. I still have not been cured of that affliction.
Oh, I remember.
I still am driven a little insane by the appearance of Darth Maul in Solo, a Star Wars story. But if this show can flesh all that out and satisfy me as a fan, I'll be really, really happy. Puff a pig, not in this episode.
All right, we're out of here. We'll see you next week for more Maul, and it's a big week for Star Wars fans, May the 4th week, and we'll be giving you a front row seat to anything that happens, any news release, whatever. And we've got Rebel Force Radio, the weekly podcast, coming up later this week. So we'll see you there. Until next time, for Rebel Force Radio, I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
the Force will be with you, always.
Brother.